So, hi and welcome to today's reading, and it's the reading of One Snowy Night, which is a story from Percy the Park Keeper series. But all the books and the illustrations are all by Nick Butterworth, and some of you may remember that it was also a TV show, so a cartoon, which was really cute, and I do enjoy the cartoon. I do remember it. I believe it was Jim Broadbent, I think, did the voice of Percy, but I'm sure I'll be corrected if I need to be. But we'll get started. This is one of my favourite Percy the Park Keeper stories. I do have quite a few of them, unsurprisingly, but this one in particular I do quite like. And I think as the nights are starting to get a little bit darker and the days are getting a bit colder, is quite a nice little lead up into the more quiet areas. I'm sorry, I'm trying to have like a light to make things easier for you guys to read, but I hope it's not hindering the pages. So we're going to get started from the very beginning here, which is like an introduction, and then we'll make our way through, and I'll share the illustrations as we go along. So I really hope you enjoy today's reading of One Snowy Night, a Percy the Park Keeper story. Welcome to Percy's Park. Percy the Park Keeper works hard looking after the park and his animal friends who live there. But Percy still likes to find time for some fun and games. And of course, in Percy's Park, there's always time for a story. So, One Snowy Night. It's cold in the park in winter, but Percy the Park Keeper doesn't mind. He puts on his warm coat and his big scarf and wears 2 pairs of woolly socks inside his Wellington boots. Percy likes to be out in the fresh air. In the middle of the park there is a little hut. This is where Percy lives. When it gets too cold to be outside, Percy goes into his hut where it's cosy and warm. The animals who live in the park all know Percy's hut. Every day he shares his lunch with them. One winter's night, it was so cold it began to snow. Great big snowflakes fell past the window of Percy's hut. "Bruh," said Percy, "I think I'll need an extra blanket tonight." He made himself some hot cocoa and got ready for bed. Suddenly, Percy heard a tapping sound. There was somebody at the door. Now who can that be at this time of night? Thought Percy. He went to the door and looked out. There on the step was a squirrel. It looked very cold and miserable. "I can't get to sleep tonight, Percy," said the squirrel. "My bed is full of snow." "Oh dear," said Percy. "Never mind, I've got plenty of room for 2. The squirrel snuggled down next to Percy and soon began to feel warm. Knock, knock. It was the door again. Now who can that be? Thought Percy. Standing outside were 2 shivering rabbits. "It's freezing," said one rabbit. "We're frozen," said the other. "You poor things," said Percy. "Come in and warm up." The rabbits squeezed into the bed next to Percy and the squirrel. There wasn't much room. "Could you face the other way?" Percy asked the squirrel. "Your tail is tickling my nose." Knock, knock. "Oh dear," said Percy. "Now there's someone else at the door." It was a fox. He looked very cold and hungry. "Can I come in too?" he asked. Percy scratched his head and thought for a minute. "Well, if you promise to behave," he said. "I promise," said the fox, and he squeezed into the bed next to all the other animals. Bump! Oops! The squirrel fell out. "Who did that?" asked the squirrel crossly. Knock, knock, knock. "Good gracious," said Percy, "it's the door again." This time Percy had quite a surprise. There on the step were a badger, 2 ducks, a hedgehog, and a whole family of mice. They all wanted a bed for the night. Poor old Percy, and poor old Percy's bed. The animals pushed and shoved and rolled around the bed, but there was just not enough room for them all. Soon the bed covers ended up in a big, tight ball. Then, bump! The covers rolled right off the bed, and everybody fell on the floor. "Oh dear," said Percy, "this won't do at all. My bed is just too small." Suddenly, one of the mice pricked up his ears. "What's that noise?" he squeaked. Everyone listened hard. Now they could all hear it. There was a scratching, scraping sound. It seemed to be coming from underneath them. "There's something moving under the floor," whispered Percy. The animals looked frightened, and the mice all started to squeak at once. "Oh dear, what can it be? It might be a monster, with fierce claws and sharp teeth." The noise grew louder and louder. Then one of the floorboards began to move. "Look out! It's coming up through the floor!" Suddenly there was a loud creak. "Help!" cried the animals, and they all ran to hide. But Percy wasn't frightened. He started to chuckle. Then he laughed out loud. A small, dark head was sticking up through the floorboards. "It isn't a monster," said Percy. "It's a mole." "I'm sorry to burst in like this," said the mole. "I knocked on the door, but nobody heard me." Percy helped the mole up through the hole in the floor, sat him on his hot water bottle to get warm, and put the floorboards back. "It's all right, everyone," he called. "You can come out now." But nobody moved. Nobody stirred. Nobody wanted to come out. The squirrel was tucked away in the pocket of Percy's dressing gown. The hedgehog was in his coat. The fox, the rabbit, the badger, and the ducks were all safely hidden away. The mice had even squeezed themselves into Percy's slippers. Everyone had found a cosy bed. "Well, I never," said Percy. Percy yawned and snuggled down in his own bed once again. "That's better. Now I've got plenty of room," he said, "and a little to spare. For a mole." That's actually the end of our story, but we've got loads of cool things to look at. So what's really nice about this particular copy of this story, which I hope you enjoyed, because I thoroughly love that story, especially the part where you actually see where everyone went to have a nice little sleep, is that this one comes with a brilliant pull-out poster that you can detach, but I'm not going to detach, but I am going to open it up so that you guys can see, because I wanted to spend more time on the picture that shows where everyone's sleeping, and I thought that, oh, maybe we can just have a little sneaky look at that one in a bit more detail. But I didn't need to, because we have a poster. So I'm going to move slightly for this one so that you guys can see, because there's loads of detail. I hold the book. Oh, there we go. So it's a little bit, I can't really fit it all in, but you can kind of see where everyone is, which is really cute. I mean, I think definitely one of my favourites is probably the fox on top of the cupboard. I do like the fox. But also, you can see down in the bottom corner, which I'll bring a little bit closer. Oh, sorry everyone. Is the mole sitting with Percy, and if I go the other way, you can see the squirrel in the blue dressing gown, which is really nice there. I think that's a really cute picture. The only thing that's kind of think missing on this picture is the mice, because the mice are in the slippers. But there was obviously a bit of a mention to that one a bit earlier on, along with them. But there's actually a nice little picture of them on this page that you might have caught earlier on. Of them in the slippers, which is really sweet. What's quite nice about these particular books is Nick Butterworth has a lovely little section at the back where he tells everyone a little bit about himself, which is really nice, and some nice pictures, so that's quite cute. And then on the other side, obviously, shows the other stories in Percy's adventures, of which I have a nice little collection of. Oh, Pooh Bear, where are you going? No, you live here, not with Percy. But I really hope that you enjoyed today's story of the Percy the Park Keeper series of One Snowy Night. And tonight, when you snuggle up, make sure that if you've got any little friends who need a little bit of space, just roll over a little bit or offer your dressing gown. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Say bye, Peter. Bye. Bye.